This is my laptop. It's the Acer Aspire V15, and I picked it up late 2016, and it was my first working laptop that I use to edit a lot of the videos that you've seen on this channel and make websites and graphics and basically a general computer until I built this guy. And that's the computer that I do most of my work on now. But from time to time, I still need to whip out the old laptop and take it with me if I travel or if I want to do the work from my couch. The problem is that over time, my laptop has gotten slower and slower. If you're watching this video, the chances are that you're probably dealing with a similar problem with your laptop. And it's a very common one. The issue that you may be familiar with is when you log in for the first time, can't let you know what my super secret PIN code is. You log in for the first time and everything slows down. In fact, you can't open up any apps and it's extremely frustrating. Why does it do that? Well, let's open up Task Manager and take a look. So you see here, the disk, which is the storage, if you're unfamiliar, is at 100%. Now this doesn't mean that it's full, this means that its activity is at full capacity. It means it's reading and writing to the maximum ability it can. So any other application or thing you try to pull up can't, because there's a waiting list, there's a line, because it's working on stuff. Well, what's it working on? You could scroll down that list and look at any number of applications that start when you start the computer. In fact, as time goes on and you install more programs and Windows updates and yada yada yada, whenever you turn your computer on, that's like flipping the switch in an office building, and all the workers are trying to file in and punch in for work. And they're checking online to see what there is to update and what there is to do, and logging in, and you know the drill. You've worked in a place. I hope you have a job. And when it does that, it crams the hard drive because everything is trying to pull information from the hard drive at the same time. So that slows things down. But why is this seemingly an issue only with laptops? Well, that's because laptop manufacturers tend to cheap out when it comes to the storage. Now, not all of them. It's just a tendency when you get a somewhat average laptop like I have. Storage is one of the areas they feel that they can sort of lower the standards on. So they install slower hard drives that only spin at 5,400 RPMs. Now that's the average laptop hard drive speed. And that is dog slow. You know, it may not sound that slow, but that means that the disk is spinning at 5,400 RPMs, which isn't bad. But when you think about every little bit of information it reads, it has to spin around and find it on the disk before the laser can pick up that spot on the disk with the information that it's trying to pull. And with all the information that it has to pull on a computer for applications and software, it has to do that a lot. So the faster, the better. Now, a standard hard drive for a regular desktop would be around 7,200 RPMs, which is granted a lot faster, but it's still not fast enough compared to flash. Flash storage is what your phone uses. You may have even noticed that your phone, no matter how old it is, tends to act even faster than your laptop sometimes. That's because it's using flash memory. And how you generally use flash memory in a laptop is with an SSD, or a solid state drive. This drive doesn't have any moving parts and no rotations that it has to wait around for. It's a much newer technology and slightly bit more expensive. However, it has gotten a lot cheaper. You can buy a 500 gig drive for around 60 bucks or so, or you could get a terabyte for about 120 or so, depending of course on the brand and the quality. Yeah, it sounds great, but does that mean that I have to go out and buy a whole new laptop? No. In fact, that might be a mistake. That'd be a lot more costly. What you can do, however, is you can simply replace the hard drive that you have in your laptop with an SSD. Now that isn't without any hiccups. You will have to reinstall Windows and back everything up beforehand and then reinstall everything. Now after a couple hours, you could have a much faster working computer. How fast? Well, generally speaking, compared to a 7,200 RPM hard drive, which is in your desktop possibly, which is more of a higher standard for desktop hard drives an SSD can be upwards to 5 times faster, or 500%. 500% sounds a lot more, so we can go with that. But compared to your laptop, it could be 7 or 10 times faster. Now, that's fast. But is that the only thing that might be making your laptop slow? Well, it could be a few other things. Most people want to blame the CPU. They say that their CPU is garbage, and that could be true. But for the most part, if your CPU is dual core, quad core, and clocks around 2.2 gigahertz or so, you're probably fine. That is, unless you're trying to game the snot out of it with some pretty heavy hitters. Not to mention that the CPU is pretty much impossible to replace on your laptop. Now, the only things you really typically can replace on a laptop are the hard drive or SSD, the RAM, and optical drive if you have one. Speaking of the optical drive, if you have an optical drive or DVD player built into your laptop, a lot of times that is a tray that can be removed and you can replace it with an SSD. So if you don't want to go through the hassle of ripping out the hard drive of your old laptop, you could potentially just get rid of your old DVD drive, which, who am I kidding? Who are you kidding? No one's using that anymore. You could get rid of that and just put an SSD in and transfer things over. If you want Windows to run off of it, which I recommend more than anything else in the world, you will still have to reinstall it, but it'll be a little bit easier to transfer things over this way. Another thing that you should factor in is if your hard drive is too full. Now, this happens fairly often, and if your hard drive is too full, then it's like a warehouse that's overpacked and you're trying to move things around. It's really, really hard and can't be done easily. Free up some of the stuff you're not using anymore, and that should help a little bit. The last thing we're going to talk about is antivirus. Antivirus software is kind of outdated. It's done. If you have antivirus, it's probably old, outdated, and not really even useful anymore, or it is a virus in itself. Another thing to remember is if you try to pair antivirus with another antivirus, like if you have two installed in one system, they'll fight each other and slow down your computer. And usually you can tell when your CPU is maxed out at 100% when it does that. Pro tip on the side, Task Manager tells you a lot of things. If anything's maxed out at 100%, that means that you're either doing something wrong or you need an upgrade of some sort. Now hold on, Micah. Are you trying to sneak me out of antivirus so that you can get in and steal the goods from my precious, that's hard to say consecutively. Precious. No. In fact, most of the antivirus that you can buy in a store is pretty much garbage now. Oh yeah, they'll try to use fear tactics in making you think you need them. In fact, if any antivirus magically shows up on your computer, that's a virus. You know, the ones where they're like, oh, you have to activate now, or there's viruses detected. That's all viruses, in case you didn't already know. But if you have Windows 10, regularly update it, you're good to go. Because Windows Defender has kept me safe, at least, since day one, and I haven't really had any real problems. I've had a lot less than I've had in the past with things even like AVG and stuff like that. So unless you have a super secret job that requires you to have high-level encryption, and at that point they give you your own antivirus software that they have. On your own, Windows Defender does just fine, and it's enough to have that on there than crowding it with other antivirus software. So to sum everything back up, an SSD is your biggest ticket to speeding up your laptop. If everything's on the hard drive that's really slow, then it's going to take forever for anything to get around to doing anything. Swap that and you're good to go. You're going to be living in the future for a while. Other than that, check Task Manager and check to make sure that nothing's running at 100%. You can tell a lot by the percentages by RAM. Usually the system will take up to 20% or so, maybe 30% of your total RAM. There's a lot going on just on idle and it's going higher than that, you might want to add a little extra RAM to help things out a little bit. Because when your RAM fills up, it starts storing things onto your hard drive, which just is insanely slow, and it's terrible, and you're donezo at that point. And that's my summary on how to unslow your laptop. For more videos like this, make sure you subscribe, and I hope to help you with your tech in the future. See ya!